Howard Jacobson, thank you to come for the visit in my home office.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
You have written very much novels. You are known for these novels which had been translated in more than 20 countries. In 2010, you get the Booker Prize, yes? And now Klett-Cotta has translated your book Rendezvous und andere Alterserscheinungen, and with the English title Live a Little. And you has written a novel and thus a treatise of memories of all kinds and their selective processing, with a good pinch of rather black humor. That's an announcement of the Klett-Cotta. There are two main protagonists in your novel. Beryl Dunsonbury is already over 90 with a super memory, and Shimi Crameli, whose memory is not quite so good. You describe them both as you know them very well. You notice how well they are acquainted with each other. Nothing suggests acquaintance between the two persons, but the text of your book cover and also the title Rendezvous und andere Alterscheinungen suggests that there's still something in life for both of them. But first, let's talk about the title Rendezvous und andere Alterserscheinungen in German, and the original title Live a Little is so short. What did you want to say with it?
I want to say, don't expect too much, but don't expect too little. In Live a Little, there's no certainty. This is not one of those titles that says life is a wonderful, magnificent thing. Both these characters have reason not to think that life is a magnificent thing. But when they meet, they think maybe they have a chance. This is a book about maybe having an opportunity. So, and I think too, the German title is not my title, but I think that also suggests uncertainty. One of the things about having something to look forward to as you age is you're not sure what you want. I don't want to be told that I'm going to live till 110, but I like not knowing when I'm going to die. I want to think, maybe, who knows, maybe I will live a long time. Maybe I will live a little bit more. So it's that sense of a little bit more and then a little bit more and a little bit more. Maybe there's a little mad corner of hope in everybody's heart at any age that there's another life coming. I'll live as long again as I've lived already. Sometimes I've lived enough. Sometimes I've finished, my bones ache. It's enough already. And then at other times I think, wouldn't it be wonderful to have a little bit more, then a little bit more, then a little bit more, and then a whole new life. So it's about that. Both titles, I think, suggest maybe nothing, maybe something, but maybe a whole new life. And the uncertainty is the romance of it.
That's the same thing which arrived to me when I begin to read. I read and read much more, and I thought that there are two novels, one of Beryl and another of Shimi. But Shimi and Dunsonbury and Shimi Caramelli don't meet at all at first. It is true that the narrative sections about Beryl and Shimi are getting shorter and shorter, and like in a movie scene, the fates of the two converge, just like in real life, isn't it so?
Yeah. The iceberg and the ship and the ocean and the Titanic. Except that this, we hope, is not going to be a disaster. And that is because I'm not interested in writing stories that have thriller plots. I don't have police, I don't have murders, I don't have detectives. For me, the tension and the joy of a story is usually in love. I usually write about love and what will happen between people, and often couples. That for me is the only story I'm interested in reading, and they're the only stories I write. So the tension for me was, when will they meet? Will it be now? Will it be the next page? Will it be the next page? And what will happen when they do meet?
Yes. I want to translate one. I have not the original book I have only the translation. On the page 2024 in the 224 in the German edition is the motto of your book. In German, einige der Begleiterscheinungen des Alters sind frei wählbar. I give an English translation, it's not so good because some of the committants of old age are freely chosen.
Yes. Yes.
This is the motto,
decide.
and it's also the theme for your wonderful book. It is a book about heavy aging, or about memory, or about the mechanism that brings people with more or less the same interests together. What is it?
I suppose it's about what I was thinking is that you can decide how old you are going to be. Literally, of course, you can't. If you've got something wrong with your body or if you have an illness, then of course something is determined for you. But on many occasions, we determine how we feel, how old we feel, and how old we are going to be. If you feel old, you will be old. If you don't feel quite so old, maybe you won't be quite so old. And what this is a story partly the story of a man, Shimi Carmeli, who decided he would feel old at the beginning. He almost goes backwards. He's old before he starts. He thinks he's ruined his life because of something that happens to him when he's a young man, and he can't forget it. He's the one with too much memory. She is the one who fears she is losing her memory. He is the one who's got too much memory. He won't allow himself to forget or to make little of what he did, what he thinks was a terrible crime. It wasn't, it was nothing, but he was ashamed of himself, and he allows that shame to dominate his life. And strictly speaking, that should be the end of him. He's quite a nice man, he's a formal man, he's formed no relationships because he thinks of himself as incapable of being a lover of women, because he thinks there's something wrong with him. So he's given up on life, really. He's civilized, but he's given up on life. Beryl Dusenberry, it's the reverse of the Sleeping Beauty. He's the Sleeping Beauty. Beryl Dusenberry wakes him up. Not necessarily with a kiss, because they're a bit old for kissing and they're not all that interested in kissing. They don't want to be doing that. But she wakes him up with conversation. And theirs is a story about conversation. They love talking. He's a good talker, although he's not done much with his life. She's a wonderful talker. She's a fantastic talker. And my ambition for the book, once I knew who they were, because when I write, I don't know who my characters are, I discover them. And as I discovered them, as I discovered who she was, I thought more and more, this woman is a good talker. And if she's a good talker, that might be, and he is a good listener, that might be what he will fall in love with. He will fall in love with her conversation. And that means for me, the novelist, I have to make their conversations really good. And I enjoyed their conversation so much, I could have written 1,000 pages. I could easily have written 1,000 pages. In fact, my wife, who likes this book very much, she likes all my books, but she particularly likes this book, wants me to write a sequel to this book, in which they go on talking and talking and talking until they're both past 100, because she likes those conversations. And who knows, I might do it. It's possible. It's uncertain.
Is too much memory not good either? We meet both of them in their old age. Everything would still be really good if it weren't for the problem with memory. What were the names of these biscuits? What was the name of the place? Is memory sometimes a problem?
Yeah, it's a problem for him because he can't let himself, he can't forgive himself. In order to be able to forgive ourselves the crimes that we commit or the crimes that we think we commit, we have to let them, if we can't forget them altogether, we have to push them to the side of our mind at least. He can't do that. Why not? Well, because there is some perverse masochistic quality in him. He wants to suffer, he wants to think badly of himself, and the means by which he thinks badly of himself is his memory. As long as he goes on remembering what he's done, he can punish himself. And really, he shouldn't be allowed. You know, he's very, very lucky to have met Beryl Dusenberry, because by all reckonings, by all chances and opportunities, nothing now is going to happen to this man. His life is over, and then she comes along. And she, of course, just as she tries to stop him remembering so much, she is losing her memory. So she wants the balance too. So it's good for her to be able to talk to somebody with too much memory. It enables her not to feel too bad about her losing her memory. She's frightened that all the words that she had, because she's a very articulate, voluble woman who's read books, who's kept diaries, and for her, words are everything. So it's a terror for her that words will go. But when she sees him, she thinks, forgetting might not be so bad sometimes. There is something to be said for forgetting.
Mhm. After just 2 chapters, we are already well acquainted with their quirks and idiosyncrasies, and will become more and more so, says my blog. In one sentence, you characterize Shimi Kameli so perfectly. He has retained the awokeness of a boy until 91. Shimi didn't really grow up.
Shimi didn't grow up. Shimi has stopped at the age he committed his crime. It stops, as if, it's as if all the mechanisms stop. All the things that should allow him to grow and change and become something different, he stops. So his is the story of someone who, although he's old, has not really grown old. But in a strange kind of way, that gives him a sort of charm, because it means he's not worn out with experience. He's not exhausted by having lived a long and bad life. He's not had lots of wives. He's not committed a lot of crimes. He's just done this one small bad thing when he was a boy. And because there's almost no life lived after that, he's a rather pure, almost virginal man. He's a young boy, a young girl. He's a very clean living man as a consequence. And Beryl finds that quite attractive. She likes the idea that she's the experienced one, because she's done terrible things. She's had lots of lovers, Shimi hasn't. She's married, Shimi hasn't. She's the one that's lived life to the full, Shimi hasn't.
I like very much to listen to you, and I have the impression that the 2 persons are waiting for us in the next room, the neighbor of you. And the same goes for Beryl Dozenberry, who loves to embroider. Then Sewell leaves her body. Her self-confidence is nevertheless unbroken. Something is true when I say it. Explain. She did explain. And anyway, chronology is for linnets. Howard Jacobson, do they believe? Is that really so?
Tell me that expression again. Chronology is for the linnets.
Yeah.
Is a linnet a bird?
That's I have perhaps
because the English expression is for the birds, which means
Chronologie ist etwas für Hänflinge in German.
Hänflinge.
Hänflinge. So that's a translation in German.
And what does that word mean?
For persons who are not very strong.
Oh, I see, for the weak. Okay. Yes. Well, she likes to talk about herself that way, as very strong. She likes to say outrageous things. She makes things up. She offers herself as being much stronger than she is. She's made her way in the world as a very, very strong mother. She is not a very nice woman. She doesn't like her children. She's never liked being a mother. She is quite fond of the people who care for her. She's of an age now where people have to care for her, but she's also very rude about them. And she says things about them that really you're not allowed to say in our very nervous, timid age about how you talk about other people. She says outrageous things. And I like the idea of her breaking all the rules. She likes the idea that she breaks all the rules. Yeah. So you have this woman who's a rebellious, tyrannical woman on the one hand, and this rather quiet, timid man on the other. So the challenge for me as a writer was, could I find something in each of them that the other could want and learn to love? That's how, if the book was going to work, each has to love this other thing in the other person. That was a lovely thing to write.
Beryl Dozenberry exercises her memory with iPad exercises and thinks about the stages of her teaching career. Shimi Kameli didn't have a school record to speak of, but at Uncle Rafi's he became an inventory controller. But you should never assume you already know the story of your life until it's over. Did he say? Memory can also be wishes.
Yep. You can choose what you can choose. You can't always choose what you forget, because sometimes the mind will have its way with you and you will forget whether you want to or not. But you can choose what you remember. You can, that's to say, you can choose not to remember something. You can't always choose to remember something, but you can choose not to remember something. You can just make yourself to a degree, and he chooses to remember. He wants to remember. So he's in that way the opposite her. She wants to remember and she can't, because you know things happen at a certain age in your mind. Those things haven't happened in Shimmy's mind. Shimmy would love to be able to forget. He looks at her and even says to her, "You're so lucky, you forget." But of course she doesn't feel lucky that she forgets. She would love to remember everything. But she tells him he should not. If he wants to remember all those things, all right, but stop punishing himself with his memories. Memories are not a weapon with which to hurt yourself, she tells him.
Your novel is a treatise or also a phenomenology of memory. Memory gaps are selective. There's selection and deletion. I found the sentence, memory is a sadist. Perhaps it only ever retains the unimportant and the annoying. What one wants to forget first appears on the top. Isn't it so? Yeah. Sometimes?
Yes, I think that is so, and it is sadistic, and it is astonishing what we forget, what extraordinary things we forget. For example, why do I forget? My memory is not too bad, but when I'm at a book signing and I'm signing books to people, I cannot remember the name of anybody I'm signing a book for. Nobody. If my brother were to come along to buy a book from me, I would forget his name. Why at that moment? Why at that moment? What are the pressures? What is it that's happening? That is a mystery to me. Is it because, and why do we all know that we forget names. The first things that we forget are names. I forget proper names. I can remember very, very complicated terms for emotions. But I'll forget the name for a frying pan. I'll forget the name for a kettle. But if you want me to describe the depths to which the soul will sink in an attempt to punish itself, I'll remember all the words for that. Why? Very interesting. We all know memory is very interesting.
My blog says, so what this book is about, a play on the value of memories and how to deal with them. The reading shows us how memories, or what remains of them, determine the protagonist's present. Is that right?
I think that is right, and it's one of the reasons why I wanted to write about old people, because old people have got more to say about memory than young people, because old people have more memories. They either retain more memories or they lose more memories. The drama of memory is much more vivid if you're an old person than if you're a young person. I, of course, because I am now an old person, enjoy writing about old people. And I very much wanted to deal with what I see as the intelligence of old people. I know so many. My mother only died last year. She was 97 years old. My mother-in-law died 2 years ago. She was 106. A man who I am very, very close to, who was a famous journalist here in Britain in the 1950s, is 102. He's sharp like that. If I've got a problem with my writing, I will email him. Donald Zeck is called. I will say, Donald, what do you think about it? And Donald Zeck, aged 102, will write me back by return a most wonderful email about what he thinks about this work. We forget there are many tragedies that befall old people, physical illness, mental illness, of course, but we forget too the triumphs, the many triumphs of old age. The old can be very, very good conversationalists. The old have lived long and interesting life. The old are more interesting than the young. That's what I want to say. I like the freedom and the old don't get a very good say in literature. Who are the great? Anna Karenina is not 106. Anna Karenina is what, in her 20s or 30s. The great heroes and heroines are always young, and the old are someone's mother or someone's father. I wanted to rescue the old from being someone's mother and someone's father. So it's not as someone's parents that they are interesting to us, it's for themselves that they are interesting to us.
Current strokes of fate, such as the death of Shimi Kameli's younger brother Ephraim, are mixed with memories. I found the sentence, was life the one big grin? Why had Jimmy Carmelli and his brother gone their separate ways?
Well, that's people are going to have to read the novel to find that out. But
next question. Don't say it. I want our lecturers to read the novel.
I do too.
As he leaves the cemetery, we are already on page 225. It happens right next to the Gothic arched doorway. I quote, an old lady sits on a moss-covered bench. The old lady knew Ephraim. They strike up a conversation. The meeting does not seem to have been planned at all. It is as if your two protagonists had met purely by chance. By chance.
Yes, that was the thing. That was what I wanted to do. Total chance, total, not about anything, total surprise to them both. Almost as if so much of a chance and yet so blessed. It's almost as if one believes in a God had organized it. And it's not for nothing that I have it at the gate of a cemetery. Somebody has just died, there has been a death, and now is this a new life? I don't overstress and make that too symbolical. But the idea that as Shimmy is leaving the cemetery and saying goodbye to his brother, the one person to whom he was been very, very close, but hasn't been close for a long time, he meets someone who suggests new life to him. And I love that idea that, you know, over the dead, out of death comes the possibility of new life. And Beryl is a very clever woman, and she knows how, I mean, she plays that. She knows how to, she makes herself look like a priestess. She is dressed like a priestess of like an ancient Greek priestess of the mysteries, to fill Shimmy with some of these questions. Is this just an accident? Or is a higher hand controlling all this? And that's something for him to deal with.
I'm right to think that the sentence, it's never too late for anything, is the most important message of your book?
Yes, yes. It's never too late for anything. Yes. But also because, although this is a comedy, like all my novels, I suppose, are comedies, but there is also, for comedy to work for me, it's got to be comedy has to walk on the very, very edge of tragedy, the very, very edge of tragedy. And the tragedy is, this might not work. Stage by stage, you wonder if this is the last conversation they're going to have. Has she taken offense? Has he taken offense? Is she too difficult for him? Is he too difficult for her? So, and even at the very end, it's not as though I say, and they don't go off hand in hand into the dying sun. We don't know, but we hope. And as a reader, that's something I like. I don't want to know. I want to be uncertain. I want there to be room for my hope. And that really is what we feel about them as they are getting to know each other. Yes, yes, maybe, no, yes, no, yeah. And that's the comic and tragic drama of it.
Thank you very much. Your book, Rendezvous and andere Alterserscheinungen, translated by Johann Christoph Mass, has been published by Klett-Cotta in Germany. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for liking the book.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me on your blog. And thank you for introducing, I hope, a few new readers to Beryl and Shimmy.
Thank you.
Thank you.